Hello. Welcome once again to the enchanted kingdom of Hermione. We're in the Turret of Pleasure. We're going to do another deep dive into the oeuvre of the rock band Kiss. A band I've never had any time for. I've always thought they were the anti-music. And I decided at the beginning of the year that I should really listen to every record carefully, with consideration as to sort of why it exists and, just how good it really is in the scheme of things. And I've been making my way through the records chronologically. We have ascertained, at least in my mind, that the first three records are basically garbage. Production is garbage. Songwriting is garbage. One good song at the end of Dress to Kill, Rock and Roll All Night, Party Every Day. Pretty good song. But they weren't making any money. The label was broke. They were broke. They were living on their manager's credit cards, and they were basically fucked. And then they decided to put out a live album, a double live album, as was the case of many, many, many bands around this time. And, of course, it went, well, it didn't go supernova. But for them, it made them into what we now know Kiss to be today. Everybody became acquainted with Gene's tongue and the fireworks and all the other extra musical aspects of their performances. So that and they finally figured out that production meant something. The first two records are produced by a couple of guys. I don't even remember their names. They're no bloody good at all. Third one, because the label was so broke, Neil Bogart, the owner of the label, produced it. That really wasn't much better of a production. And then finally for the live record needed some serious tweezing. And they got Eddie Kramer in. Eddie Kramer is a real producer. And by God, Kiss Alive, it's way better than I remember. Certainly it's miles better than any of the previous records. So there you go. Table is set. The first three records have been wrapped up, ready to go. Who do we get now? Well, they finally figured out, I think they'd figured out about four things by this point. First of all, they need a really good producer. They need a producer that can turn them into something more than what they already are, which is to say a barely competent hard rock band with a visual gimmick. And so they search around and they get Bob Ezrin. Bob Ezrin was hot off a bunch of good records with Alice Cooper. He'd come off of a interesting record with Lou Reed. And he was a Toronto guy. He'd worked with Nimbus 9, I believe. Jack Richardson, Jack Douglas, that sort of crowd. And so they got him on board to produce. And they handed him a big bag of demos that they had done. And Ezrin, being Ezrin, listened to them and he says, I don't like any of these songs. These are all crap. And he was probably right. So they set to work creating some songs that Ezrin didn't think were crap. And of course, what this meant was that Mr. Ezrin would co-write many of the songs. And so what we get on Destroyer, the new album, is, let me think now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10 songs Bob Ezrin co-wrote. What's more, he brought in some song doctors. And he, not just any old song doctor, he brings in Kim Fowley, of all people, who gets 2 co-writes. And then somebody named Mark Anthony, and for Beth, Peter Criss's opus to his girlfriend, a guy named Stan Penridge, who apparently wrote the vast majority of that song. And so there's really only 2 songs on the record where there's no song doctors whatsoever. God of Thunder, track number 3, written by Stanley, which is dog shit, and Sweet Pain. Gene Simmons is a real sick puppy. Every one of his songs is about sort of deviant, angry sexuality, where this guy doesn't like women, I don't think. He should, So, yeah. And then you get those two songs, they're just no good at all. Good production, though. They sound good. And Ezrin brings a gloss to this album that was just simply missing on everything else. So even the turds are polished. Now, this record, I should have started at the beginning. The record starts with what remains, in my opinion, their only decent song, which, of course, is Detroit Rock City. Now, Detroit Rock City is written by Paul Stanley and Bob Ezrin. Now, whether Bob Ezrin gets the writing credit for the 1.5-minute intro, which is kind of all sound effects and cars screeching wheels, and there's sort of a little montage being built up, sort of a story kind of being told. But starting your record off with it, I completely forgot, after all these years, that this record begins with this ridiculous nonsense. And it goes on. I timed it. It's over 1.5 minutes. Then you finally get to the song. The song's a good song. It's finally a song about just, well, like all the best Kiss songs. God, I can't believe I'm saying that there are best Kiss songs. But the best Kiss songs are just about the celebration of rock and roll itself. So I just want to rock and roll all night and party every day. Those kind of lyrics, they work the best for this band. And the sick, groupie quest lyrics, those are kind of eye-rollingly bad, especially when Gene was writing them. But Detroit Rock City is the real deal, and this announces them, the new Kiss, the new professional Kiss, And then you get King of the Nighttime World. Paul Stanley, Kim Fowley, Mark Anthony, and Bob Ezrin are all kicked in on this. Now, you know what? It's not a bad song. It's more of a pop song. It's a Paul Stanley song. So it's not very metal, per se. Kind of hair metal, maybe. But again, it's not. You can tell it's been massaged a lot. And there's not really a lot there to start with to massage. So King of the Nighttime World, I don't know, it's sort of there. God of Thunder is just garbage. The lyrics to God of Thunder, boy, every time I hear them, I'm like, really? Ooh. And then you get, there's only 4 songs on the first side. Great Expectations. Gene Simmons and Bob Ezrin. This is only slightly better, but the lyrics are still abominably bad. It's like you think you're going to get laid by this rock star. Well, don't think so fast. Don't be so, don't be so hasty. You got to see if the rock star wants to, take advantage of you. That seems to be the message of the song. It's terrible. It's also 4 minutes long. So you flip the vinyl, as it were, and you get Flaming Youth. Flaming Youth is the obligatory Ace Frehley compositional contribution. These have been down to, well, they've always been really 1 per album, I guess. And this one, he's joined by Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Bob Ezrin, who step all over this song. But you can tell it's an Ace song. I'm not sure. It's a tiny bit more sophisticated musically. The lyrics are kind of vague, and Ace's songs always have lyrics about how much he doesn't like himself, I think, really. And so it's the Ace song on the record. I will say also, Ace's guitar playing on this record is mostly great, because no doubt they made him do it 1,000,000 times, because that's what Ezrin does. Song number 6, side 2, track 2, Sweet Pain. The less I say about this song, the better. Sweet Pain, written and sung by Gene Simmons, about, oh, it hurts so good, Daddy. Song number 7, Shout It Out Loud. Now, Again, this is where Kiss excel. Shout it out loud. Stanley Simmons Ezrin. Basically, same as Rock and Roll Party All Night Every Day. A very vague kind of raise your fist in the air and rock party anthem. And it's a good one. 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Who knew? It's that short. So after they whack you with that, then the master stroke. Because Kiss have never to this point in time, Kiss were pretty much a young man phenomenon. So you get Beth. And Beth is Peter Criss's sensitive paean to his girlfriend about, the boys and I have to be out playing rock and roll gigs for all those girls with no bras. And boy, I really wish I was sitting here with you tonight instead of being showered with adulation by groupies. Every word of it probably a lie. But there you go. And all the girlfriends of all the boys who like Kiss found a song to identify with, and it became a giant hit. Even though they had to hire the London Symphony Orchestra to play on it, which of course is a typical, very, very Ezrin thing. But it worked. It was a masterstroke of strategy. I don't think it's a terrible song, but it's incongruous on this record. And then finally, at the end, Stanley Fowley Ezrin, right? So another one that was doctored heavily by soothsayers, I guess. Do You Love Me? Do You Love Me? Sung by Paul Stanley. Pretty typical Paul Stanley. Kind of a nothing song. Kind of a strange place for it, and this is why you kind of wonder, who sequenced this record? I mean, you could have put, I don't know, Sweet Pain. No, you don't want to put, I don't know why Sweet Pain's even on there. But, Do You Love Me, on the original issue, would fade into oblivion, and then there'd be a little minute-long thing at the end. And it sounds to me like doctored live footage put through some elaborate, for those days, reverbs. And it's all very incoherent and sort of, and it's a minute 25 long, written by Simmons, Stanley, and Ezrin, interestingly enough, called Rock and Roll Party. And it is essentially, I thought about this, it's kind of Kiss's Revolution number 9. Except they had the good sense to keep it short and to tuck it away as kind of a bonus track at the end of the album. But it's kind of their little art statement. Again, Ezrin probably got the writing credit because he's the one that put it all together. But that caps off, it's a kind of an odd record. It starts with a minute and a half of what sounds like a car chase, and it ends with a minute and a half of what sounds like somebody recording a Kiss concert from outside the building. In between are 2 or 3 of the best songs they ever wrote. Needless to say, they had lots of help. And of course, just in case you got your hopes up too high, you get things like God of Thunder and Sweet Pain, which are the usual turds, which is what happens when this band is left to its own devices. I would love to hear, I think it was a 12 or 15 track demo that they gave Ezrin at the beginning of this. I'll bet you they're all like God of Thunder and Sweet Pain. Because these guys, and the other thing about this record, it confirms once more, as if it needed more confirming in my mind, that nobody in this band can sing. Maybe Peter Criss. Bethy can kind of croak it out, and it's okay, but Gene Simmons is just the worst singer ever. And of course, Ezra knows this and buries him in all kinds of jattery, gated reverb. And just, he sounds like he's screaming in the toilet. And their singing is no good. Stanley is perhaps slightly better, but really neither of these guys can sing. And, and they can all play to a point, but they're still Kiss. This was probably, I don't know, let me think now. It was probably their best whole album. Which isn't saying much. I would give it, at best, like a B minus. And that's being really generous. It was a big hit, of course. And it, Kiss Alive, and then this, and the following couple of records, and Kiss Alive 2, and there's a spate of records, and we're going to cover them in due course. Rock and Roll Over, and God, what's the other one? There's a couple in here that really solidified their reputation, and basically they haven't changed much since then. And the culmination of all this period was, of course, when they discovered disco, but we're not even anywhere near that yet. And we're in the salad days of Kiss right here. So there you have it. That's my deep dive. Not too bad. I was listening to King of the Nighttime World, and it's kind of okay, I guess. Kind of a nice little song to along with. But yeah, when I got to Sweet Pain, I was like, this is crap. Why am I listening to this garbage? And, I'm going to listen to Do You Love Me again, because it's such a nothing song. I don't even remember how it goes. And I just listened to it for like the 5th time a few minutes ago. But there you have it. The deep dive on Destroyer. Yeah, B minus. Kind of the beginning of the end, I think. I don't know. I'm going to have to double check. But I think Ace started to fade starting around now. And things are kind of consolidating. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we're using a new camera today. So if this looks funny, or you think it's terrible, that's why, because I don't know what I'm doing. And but the Microphonic Fool found me a nice new GoPro that'll do 4K, apparently. Apparently that's good. So, thanks. Shout out to him. He does all the processing. You make sure these things actually look semi-professional. And I appreciate that. And look after each other. We'll talk to you soon about other things. Take it easy. I'll talk to you later.